Yeah, hello guys. Once again, good evening everyone, and welcome to the Tungabhadra Networks. My name is Karthik, and I have 8+ years of experience in networking field, and including 4 years of experience in the Palo Alto Firewall. Okay, so everyone is a fresher, or do you have any experience in the firewalls? Do anyone have experience in the firewalls? Yeah, okay. Mini hacker. Okay, okay. Yeah, in this course, we are going to learn about extensively in the Palo Alto firewalls. Okay, how Palo Alto firewall will be fit in the networking, and as an leading security vendor. Okay, so in the Palo Alto, how the traffic will be processed in the firewall, and how we can in the upcoming classes we can learn about how the firewall filter the traffic, and how the firewall inspect the traffic. Okay, so what is the main role of firewalls in the network? Okay, so today we are going to discuss about firewall fundamentals, and we have a list of things that we need to discuss. First of all, we need to discuss about what is firewall and what is the role of firewall in the network, and what are the essential features in the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, this is exclusively for the Palo Alto firewall, right? So we need to know what are the essential features that Palo Alto firewall will be able to handle the network. Okay, and we need to know about firewall models. If we are using Palo Alto firewall, there are different types of models, and we have hardware models and software models. So we can learn about that hardware models, what are hardware models, and what are the software models. Okay, and in the firewalls, if you come to particular firewall and particular firewall model, what are the types of interfaces that we have, and what is the use of particular interface? Okay, and after that we need to know about the zones. Okay, why we need to create a zones, and what is the purpose of the zones. And after that there is a concept called interface management profile. Okay, and why we use interface management profile, and what is the purpose of interface management profile. Okay, so coming to our first okay thing, we need to know what is a firewall. Okay, what is a firewall means? Firewall is an security device where it can inspect and it can filter your traffic, whatever the traffic coming from inside, whatever the traffic going from our inside network to outside, or the traffic coming from outside network to the inside. Okay, whatever the traffic flowing through the firewall has to be the role of the firewall is the firewall has to be inspect and filter the traffic. Okay, why the firewall need to inspect means we have certain rules created on the firewall to allow or block that particular traffic. Okay, in order to block or in order to allow, the firewall has to inspect the traffic, right? So in that way the firewall will be able, if you set the rule to allow, the firewall will allow that particular traffic, or if you set an rule as a drop, the firewall will drop that particular traffic, whether it is coming from outside or whether it is going from inside. Okay, for suppose let us take the scenario. Okay, this is our firewall, and we have some routers or some switches connected to the firewall. Okay, and after that we have one PC, which is an whether it is an Windows or Mac or Linux machine. Okay, let us consider that. So our firewall is connected to the internet. Okay, our firewall is connecting to the internet. So in order to allow the traffic, okay, for suppose you have initiated the traffic from here, and you are trying to reach the internet. Okay, for suppose you are trying to reach the internet, and in the firewalls, this firewall will inspect the traffic. Okay, how the traffic will flow, the traffic will flow from PC to switch to the router, and router to the firewall. Once the traffic receives on the firewall will inspect the traffic and will check the rule whether it has to be allow or it has to block. If it is the firewall rule is set to be allow, the firewall will allow the traffic and reaches the internet. Okay, and the rule is set to be block, so the firewall will will not send the traffic out. Okay, the firewall itself will drop the traffic. So the firewall, the main role of the firewall is it has to be inspect, and it has to be filter the traffic based upon the predefined rules. Okay, we have to define the rules, and we have to configure the set of rules. Okay, so that is the role of the firewall in your network. Okay, always the firewall will sit at the edge of your network, because whatever the traffic leaving your network or whatever the coming the traffic, the firewall will be able to inspect the traffic, right? So it will be sitting at edge of your network, so that it will able to inspect and filter the traffic. Okay, so here in the firewalls we'll be having two types of firewalls. One is an legacy firewall. Okay, and we have legacy firewalls, and after that we have next generation firewalls. Okay, NGFW means next generation firewalls. What are legacy firewalls and what are next generation firewalls? Okay, legacy firewall means the firewalls which supports up to layer 3. Okay, the firewall that supports the traffic supports up to L3. Okay, so these firewalls are legacy firewalls, because these legacy firewalls will not able to handle the traffic which are related to the applications. Okay, so these are the legacy firewalls which support the traffic up to L3, but next generation firewalls are those where it supports up to the L7. L7 means which is application layer. It will also, the next generation firewall also able to handle the application layer traffic, as well as the firewalls, all these next generation firewalls will able to inspect the traffic based upon the applications as well. So in order to if you want to monitor the traffic or monitor the network based upon the applications, but in the legacy firewalls we don't have such type. Okay, in most times we are using application, right? Mostly whenever you are browsing something on the Facebook. Okay, if you want to open the Facebook, or if you want to if you want to access the Facebook, or if you want to access the Instagram, or if you want to access the Snapchat, what you will do, you will download the app, or you try to click on the app and it will open, right? So in the back end what it will do is, if you want to access the Facebook, you have to allow the application on the firewall. Okay, so legacy firewalls will won't be able to support that, but next generation firewalls will be able to support up to L7. So if you want to access any applications, these next generation firewalls we have to use. So apart from supporting the applications, these next generation firewalls will able to identify the threats. Okay, identify the threats, vulnerabilities, and malicious content. Okay, malicious content in sense, whatever the things that are non-authorized. Okay, which are not authorized websites. We have some 18 plus contents, or some drugs based, or some what we call gambling. Okay, gambling sites. So those are the unauthorized accounts. Okay, unauthorized sites. So the next generation firewalls will able to identify the threats, as well as identify the vulnerabilities, and also the identify the malicious content, so that it will be the whatever the things that you want to monitor, or whatever the things that you want to block, you can use the next generation firewalls, so that you can able to protect your network from all of these. Okay, so now the Palo Alto is an next generation firewalls. Okay, Palo Alto firewalls are next generation firewalls, where it will be handling all the traffic through L7. Okay, from L1 to L7, and also identify the threats, vulnerabilities, and also the malicious content. Okay, so Palo Alto firewalls are next generation firewalls, not the legacy firewalls. Palo Alto firewalls are next generation firewalls, where it will support the traffic up to L7. Apart from the supporting traffic up to L7, it will identify the threats, vulnerabilities, and malicious contents. Okay, this is about the firewall. Okay, and the next thing is, and we have essential features in the Palo Alto firewall, right? We have multiple essential features in the Palo Alto firewall, and where it can support Palo Alto Firewall have multiple essential features, right? So first one is an traffic control. Okay, we have discussed about the traffic control, right? Whatever the traffic, for suppose if you want to reach the internet, okay, if you want to reach the internet, the firewall will be able to control the traffic, whether it has to be blocked or whether it has to be allow. So this is the first thing that firewall will be having the traffic control. Okay, the firewalls monitor and filter the incoming and outgoing network traffic based upon the predefined security rule. Okay, this helps prevent unauthorized access. Whatever the traffic that is going out means traffic leaving from our network to outside. Okay, and whatever the traffic coming inside from from our internet to our internal network. So this is where whatever the traffic going in and out, the firewall has to be monitor and filter the traffic based upon the predefined rules, so that we can able to block the unauthorized access. If any unauthorized access coming from the internet, so the firewall will look over the rules and it will be block the traffic. So it will be able to control the traffic by preventing unauthorized access, and also it will also protect against the attacks. Okay, we have discussed about some threats, vulnerabilities and malicious content, right? So all those are comes under this attacks. So the firewalls will protect protect our network from all these attacks. Okay, whatever the hacking attempts or malware contents or denial of service attacks, all these attacks is protected by the firewall. Okay, these are the one more feature that Palo Alto Firewall supports. And segmentation. Okay, segmentation will be works in the Palo Alto Firewall. The segmentation will work based upon the zones. Okay, how it will work means, if you know in the switching, you have known about the VLANs, right? You have known about the VLANs. What VLAN will do? The VLAN will segment the whole network into different subnets, right? So in the same way, in the Palo Alto firewall, the zones will be worked. Okay, in order to segment the in order to segment the network in the using the Palo Alto firewall, you can create a zones. Okay, how it will be means, for suppose if you have a firewall and you have connected multiple interfaces. Okay, and multiple devices that are connected. Okay, so if you want to segment these, what we need to do is we need to create a zones. For suppose I want to segment all these interfaces in the one zone, so I'm segmenting using the zone. And so whatever the interfaces that I want, I will create one zone and I will add that in the one zone, and other interfaces will be in different zone. Okay, so in the VLAN also, what we can do, we can create a VLAN, right? We can create a VLAN and we will be adding some devices in that VLAN. So what it will do, the devices that are available in the VLAN will be able to communicate within themselves. But whatever the communication between devices in different VLAN, they will not be able to communicate, right? In the same way, the zones are also created. Okay, if we are included interfaces or devices in one zone, they will be communicating to each other, and whatever the devices that are available in the different zone, they won't be able to communicate. Okay, so the segmentation will work based upon the by creating a zones in the firewalls, how we can create VLANs in the switching. Okay, that is also the one concept of firewall. And policy enforcement, this policy enforcement is same as how we can control the traffic. What it will do means, whatever the traffic comes, what firewall will do is the firewall will check the policy and it will enforce that policy, whatever the action that we have set. If the policy we have created to allow the traffic, it will allow the traffic, or otherwise it will be blocking. If we set the action as a block, it will be block the traffic. Not only that, the policy will be enforced based upon the applications and based upon the users. We have discussed about, right, the firewalls are next generation firewalls, where it will be where it will be supporting the traffic up to L7, right? So, and also not only it will be enforcing the policies based upon the policies, and we can also enforce the policies based upon the user and also the data that is flowing in your organization. Okay, so that is an policy enforcement. And the next thing is an monitoring and logging. Okay, monitoring and logging, what it will do means, whatever the traffic coming to the firewall, okay, whatever the traffic coming to the firewall, it will be logging inside the firewall. Logging in sense, it will create an logs. For suppose if you are trying to ping, let's suppose take this PC IP as 10.10.10.1, and you are trying to reach 8.8.8.8. Okay, from 10.10.1 you are trying to ping 8.8.8. Okay, so once this traffic reaches the firewall, what firewall will do is, the firewall will log the session. Okay, will log the log. What it will do means, it will be log the log with source IP 10.10.10.1 and destination IP as 8.8.8.8, and what is the application that they are using, and how many bytes it has received and how many bytes it sent, and what is the ingress interface. Ingress interface means what is the interface that traffic has reached, and what is interface that is going outside. Okay, and also all this information will be logged in the firewall. Okay, once you, if you want to see any information about this traffic, you can go on to the logs and you can verify. Okay, so I think you have known about the syslog, it seems. Okay, syslog. Okay, what syslog will do? All the logs will be stored in the syslog, and whenever you want to audit or whenever you want to check, you can go to the syslog server and you can verify the logs. Right. In the same way, the firewall will also monitor and will manage the logs, and by adding these whatever the traffic that is receiving on the firewall, or from inside or outside, whatever the traffic that is coming inside receiving on the firewall will log all this and monitor the traffic. Okay, this is also one type of one essential feature in the Palo Alto firewall. And we have VPN support. Okay, what is a VPN support means, we have multiple we have not multiple, we have two types of VPNs, right? We have one type of VPN is in site to site, where you can configure VPNs between one site to other site. For suppose you have a company. Okay, you have an XYZ company. Let's suppose, let's take one Geo. Okay, Geo, we have an Geo company, right? So let's take one branch office is in Hyderabad and other branch office in Bangalore. So in order to send information securely between these sites, okay, we need to form an VPN, which is called an IPsec VPN. Okay, we can call it an IPsec tunnel, which is formed between one site and other site. Okay, and we have also the another VPN called remote access VPN, where the VPN will be formed between the firewall and the Windows machines. Okay, or Windows machine in sense, not only Windows machine, whether it is an Linux or whether it is an Mac OS. Okay, these remote access VPNs mostly helpful for those who are working from home. Okay, in COVID situation, all the people are doing working from home, right? So in order to access their corporate office network, okay, in order to access their office network, what they have to do is, they have to connect to the VPN first, then only they will be able to reach their office internal network. Okay, so in order to reach the office internal network, they have to connect to the VPN. So in the Palo Alto firewall, we'll be having an VPN which is called an Global Protect. We'll discuss this Global Protect, more about the Global Protect in upcoming classes. And also we'll be having IPsec class also. We'll be having IPsec session which will be discussed extensively in the upcoming classes. Okay, this Palo Alto firewall supports these two types of VPNs: site to site VPN and remote access VPNs. Okay, site to site VPN, which is an IPsec tunnel, IPsec VPN, and Global Protect VPN is an remote access VPN in the Palo Alto. Okay, so this Global Protect, we have to install the application in the clients, which are Windows machine or Linux machine or Mac OS. Okay, so it will be, we need to connect in order to access the whatever the internal resources that we have. Okay, These are the some features that are supporting on the Palo Alto firewall. Do you have any doubts, or do you have any questions before proceeding further? Yes, Vinay Kumar. Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 I will teach you slow. Okay. Thanks for your concern. Okay. Any other concerns that you have, or other, do you have any queries or questions? Yes. Yeah, Prithviraj, I can hear you. Yeah. Okay, Vinay, just go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, that what we are going to discuss about. Okay, in the firewall models, you can get to know whether it is an firewall is an hardware, or whether firewall is an software. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, see here in the legacy firewall, these firewalls will support up to only the L3. L3 means it will support up to the network layer. Okay, whatever the traffic that is coming from your network, or if, see, for suppose, if you are using legacy firewalls. Okay, if you are using legacy firewalls, and if you want to access some applications within your network. Okay, so this legacy firewall will support up to the network layer, but it don't have an access to the L7, right, application layer. So in that case, you are not able to access, or you are not able to use the applications. So in order to use the applications, and also in order to access the applications, so you have to go with the next generation firewalls, where it will be supporting up to the layer 7. Okay, you there is sorry, your voice is bit low. You are asking about what is difference between threats and vulnerabilities, right? Yeah, threats and vulnerabilities both are the same category, but threats, whatever the traffic that that see, for whenever the traffic reaches the firewalls, if it is not an identified in the firewalls, so that will be treated as an threats. Okay, because the firewall is not able to identify the traffic, and maybe that is some suspicious, and it will be the firewall will not be able to identify the traffic, and it will be considering as an threat. Okay, the traffic which is not identified. Okay, the traffic which is not identified by the firewalls, that it will be considering as an threat. Okay, and these vulnerabilities means there are some whenever you are trying to access the applications. Okay, and in that situations, the applications will be coming from the websites, right? So maybe they will be having some antivirus, in some antivirus will be attacking that, right? So whenever you are accessing applications, and the antivirus is identified, and it will be coming under the vulnerabilities, the firewall will be considered that application under the vulnerability. Yeah. Any other questions? I think someone. Uh, okay. Okay. Vinay, you only, right? Okay. Yeah. The next thing is, we have third one is an firewall models. Okay. firewall models. Someone is asked about whether it is an hardware or whether it is software, right? The firewall models are both types. Okay, we'll be having hardware firewalls. Okay, hardware firewalls, and as well as we'll be having software firewalls. Okay, we'll be having both models. Okay, we'll be having hardware firewalls, we'll be having software firewalls. So why we need both types means, so some people will not be able to accommodate the space, or they will not be able to handle the hardware models, right? So in that case, what they will do means they will go with the software firewalls. What is the basic difference means, we can see hardware firewall, we can see with our eyes and we can touch, right? So the software firewalls are firewalls where you have to install the software in the any of the VMs. Okay, we have multiple VMs like ESXi or KVM, or we can also deploy the software firewalls in the cloud. Cloud instance, we'll have AWS cloud, or we have Azure cloud, or we have GCP cloud. Okay, so these software models will able to handle easily, and it will be deployed wherever you want. Okay, wherever you want means, if you want to deploy in the AWS, or if you want to deploy in the Azure, based upon your requirement, you can deploy. But these hardware models, it will be in physical firewalls where where you have to connect all the cables, and you have to connect the management cables, all the uplinks. Okay, so these hardware models are physicals where you can install into the data centers. Okay, so we have multiple hardware models like PA 200 series, PA 400 series firewalls, PA 800 series firewalls. These are the firewall models. Okay, and we have 3200, PA 5200, and we have PA 7000 series firewalls. The newly added firewalls are PA 1400 series firewalls. Okay, so here these hardware models, we have different hardware models. Why we have these different models? In sense, these models will based upon the requirement. Okay, if your organization is small and you want only, if your organization is small, and if you have a network traffic is very low, you can go with the small models. Okay, it will the PA 200 and PA 400 are very much suitable in that case for smaller organizations where traffic is less. Okay, and also based and if you compare with the processor of the firewall and also the memory of the firewalls, this firewall will have an low processor and low memory. Okay, and for mid-size organizations. Okay, for mid-size organizations, you can go with the PA 800 and PA 3200. Okay, but what is the basic difference means, the basic difference between all these firewalls is it's based upon your organization size and number of users and your network traffic. Okay, all these firewalls will be able to provide you the security in the same way. Okay, there will be no compromise in the security, but it will be depends upon the size of the organization and the size of the network. Okay, for smaller organizations you can go with 200 and 400 series. For mid size you can go with 800 and 3200. And we have 5200 series firewalls where you have a larger organizations. Okay, large organization in sense, we have Infosys, like TCS, all these my MNCs will be there, right? So there, this 5200 will be able to suitable, where this it will be handle very high volume of traffic, and also processor wise, this will be having very high processor. Okay, and also memory also, it will be much greater when compared all these firewalls. Okay, And if you want to use PA700 firewalls, you have to use in the data centers. Okay, data centers are ISPs. We have service providers, right, like Geo, Airtel, Vodafone. In that case, this PA700 series firewalls will be very much useful. Both PA700 and PA4 and 1400 series firewall will be able to handle the data center traffic. Data center means we'll be having all the devices connected in the data centers, right? So in order to handle all this huge traffic that is flowing through and that is coming into the data center, these PA700 series and PA400 series firewalls are very much suitable. And compared to 5200 series firewalls, we'll be having the processor and memory high on this 7000 series and 1400 series firewalls. Okay, so these are all the hardware models that are available in the Palo Alto. And also we have a software firewalls. In the software firewalls also we'll be having multiple series like VM50 we'll be calling as an PAVM because it is virtual machines, right? So we'll be calling VM PAVM, and we can the model is PAVM, and the licensing is VM50. We'll be having VM100, VM200, VM300. Okay, these are also depends upon your requirement and the organization size. For smaller organizations you will go with VM50, and for mid size you can go with VM100 and 200. For large size we can go with the VM300 series firewalls. Okay, whether it is an hardware or software firewalls, the security wise, okay, if you want to provide the security, there will be no compromise whenever you deploy hardware firewalls or software firewalls. The security wise there will be no compromise. Okay, but based upon your requirement, if you have a space and if you can handle the physical firewall, you can go with hardware models. Okay, but if you don't have a space, and if you're not capable or if you're not able to handle the firewalls, physical firewalls, you can go with software. You can deploy it in the VMs, whatever the VM that you want, or you can deploy in the clouds, whatever the cloud that you want, and you can able to handle very much easily. Okay, these are the software, right? Whenever you want you can turn on, and uh, turn on the firewall, and you can able to handle the traffic, and you can able to protect your network. Okay, so these are the two different types of models, and these are the series of the firewalls that are available in the particular models. Okay, I think someone asked about the whether it is hardware and software, right? I think your for your question, here is the answer. Okay, both fire in the Palo Alto will be having two types of models, hardware models, and it will support hardware and it will also support the software firewalls. Okay, yeah. And what is the base configuration need for VM? Okay, and I think the base configuration that needs for VM is it will have it wants it should have two CPUs. Okay, 2 to 4 CPUs, and it should have at least 16 to 32 GB of memory. Okay, if you have this, you can able to spin up the VM models, VM firewall. Okay, the base configuration should be like this, but apart from this, whatever the configuration that you want to protect your network, that's up to you, you can configure, but the base configuration is you should have 2 to 4 CPUs, and it should have 16 to 32 GB of memory. Yeah, and next thing we are going to know about the we have known about the firewall models, right? I will show you. I have pictures. Yeah, see here we have 220 firewall like this. It will be a like an sweet box. Okay, if you can able to easily handle this PA 200 and PA 400 and PA 800 series firewalls. It will be like a small box which is looks like a sweet box. Okay, it is not that much of weight. You can easily able to plug and play. Okay, so here we will be having interfaces, right? All are the RJ45 interfaces, and you can see here on the right side you will having a management port and also the console port. Okay, in the initial configurations, and if you want to configure these firewalls, you need to plug into the console and connect to the your laptop. Then you can initially configure, and if you have a uplink, okay, if you have a uplink, you can connect that uplink to the management so that you will get an management IP. Okay, so you can learn more about that in the interface steps. Next is an interface steps. Okay, you can learn more about that, but I want to show you the pictures of how the firewalls look like. These are the PA220, and these are the PA400 series, and this is a PA800 series firewalls. Okay, and apart from this we have PA3200 series firewalls, and we have these are the PA5200 series, and for every series we'll be having another we are having models. Okay, PA820, 850, we'll be having 410, 420, 450 and 460, and here we have 5260, 5280 and 5220, 5250. So in every series also we will be having different models. Okay, and if you see here, these are the PA 7000 series firewalls where it will be a big size. Okay, in the picture it is looks like a small, but if you see a real PA 700 series firewalls, it will be like an rack size. Okay, rack size in sense, if you have 15 unit of rack, it will be that much of size. So if you want to replace this firewall, you can't replace. Okay, if you want to replace these firewalls like PA 200, 400, 800, you can replace these firewalls, but PA 7000 series firewalls we cannot replace. Okay, once it is installed we cannot replace this, but you can replace the modules. We will be having modules, right? This is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. These are the modules. You can replace the module. You can you can able to plug in and plug out these modules, but once this firewall, if you install this firewall, you cannot replace this. Okay, these are the some pictures that are hardware models. Okay, and we have interface types. In interface type we have different types of interfaces. First one is a management interface. I showed, right? For every firewall we'll be having one management interface. Okay, on the top, on the right side you will see that on the top this is a management interface, and here also we'll be having two set of, but one set is for management. One first one is a management, and the second port is an console. And you can see on every firewall, okay, on every firewall we'll be having one management interface. Why we need this management interface? Okay, in Palo Alto firewall, why we need this management interface? Okay, why we need means, in order to access the SSH. Okay, in order to access the firewall using an SSH or using an HTTPS, we need a management interface. So whenever you connect the uplink port to the management interface, we'll get an IP. For every, you can also able to access the routers, right, using using some IP address. So in the same way, you have to connect the uplink port to the management interface. So you will get some management IP. Using that management IP, will be able to access GUI of the firewall. GUI means web GUI, and you can also able to access the firewall SSH using this management interface. Okay, so if this management interface is not available, you are not able to log into the firewalls whenever you are in the remote place. If you are near to the firewalls, you can use the console port. Okay, if you are near to the firewalls, you can use console cable. I think you are already you all already known the console port, right? For the routers also we'll be having one console port where you can connect RJ45 console port to the firewall, and HDMI port to the laptop. So it will be connecting, and you are connecting using the COM ports, right? Using from the laptop, you can use the COM ports to connect to the routers, right? In the same way, you can connect the firewalls using the console. Okay, apart from this console, if you want to log in the firewall from the remote, you need a management interface. Okay, so this management interface will be helpful to log into the web GUI of the firewall, as well as CLI. How you can access the CLI? Using an SSH. Okay, so you, in order to access SSH also, you need a management interface. Okay, so this is the purpose of management interface. And the next type of interface is an HA interface. Okay, HA means here high availability, and some firewalls will not have an HA interface, but here if you see on the 800 series firewalls, you will be having this one set of one set will be used for management and console, and one set for the high availability. High availability means in the Palo Alto we'll be calling high availability as the redundancy. Okay, but in the routers, if you know about VRRP or HSRP, right, the VRRP will be using for the redundancy in the routers, right. In the same way, in the Palo Alto will be not only the Palo Alto, in any firewalls they will be calling as an high availability, where it will be using for the redundancy. Okay, so we, in order to connect two firewalls in a redundance, so they need an higher HA interfaces. So these HA interfaces will be helpful in order to connect two firewalls in an high availability. Okay, so the next thing is an tap interface. This tap interface used in the tap mode deployment, where firewalls monitor the traffic without actively participating in it. Okay, useful for analysis and security monitoring. So how this tap interface will be helpful means, for suppose you have your network. Okay, you have routers, you have switches, the switches are connected, and you have your laptops. Okay, so this is your network, and your network is connected to some outside of the internet. Okay, likewise it is connected. So you got a requirement. There is no firewall in your network as of now. Okay, but you got a requirement that you need to monitor whatever the traffic going and whatever the traffic coming into your network. Okay, this is your, for to here, this is your network, and this is the outside of your network which is connected to the internet. Okay, you have a requirement that you want to monitor. Okay, and for some reasons, okay, that you want to monitor whether you are receive in what's happening in your network. So in order to monitor, so what you can do is, without actively participating in your network, okay, without any changing anything in your network, you want to monitor your traffic in the network. Okay, what you can do means, you can deploy a firewall. Okay, you can deploy a firewall in your network, and you can configure one interface as a tap interface. Okay, let's take this is an interface, tap interface, and you can just connect that to one of your switch. Okay, the port that have connected to the switch will be configured as a mirror. Okay, mirror in the sense, whatever the traffic receives on this switch. Okay, whatever the traffic receives on this switch, this traffic will be mirrored to this firewall. Okay, whatever the traffic reaches, okay, whether it is from this side or whether it is from this side, whatever the traffic receives on this switch, this traffic will be sent to this firewall, because we have configured a mirroring concept. Mirroring sense, if you stand in front of the mirror, what you will see? You will see your reflection, right? You will see your face directly in this, right? So in the same way, here we can configure a tap, and here we can configure a mirroring. So whatever the traffic that receives on this switch, that will be send this the switch will send all the traffic to this firewall. So the firewall will be logging all the traffic that is sent by the switch. Okay, so for sometimes or after some time, your network administrator want to inspect the traffic that is flowing in your network. Okay, what they will do is, they will log into the firewall, they will take all these traffic logs, and will see if there are any suspicious or unauthorized access in your network or not. Okay, so in that case, this tap interface is very much useful. Okay, without interfering in your network, and without changing anything in your network, it will just monitoring your network traffic. Okay, So if the network administrator want to monitor your network traffic, what they will do means they will, if they want to use Palo Alto firewall, they will monitor, they will deploy the Palo Alto firewall and they will configure a tap interface. Okay, this is our tap interface on the firewall. So here they will configure mirror, whatever the traffic reaches on this firewall, they will, the traffic will be sent to this firewall, and this firewall will logging all the traffic whatever the switch sends. Okay, so if after some time or after many days, if the network administrator or security, sorry, admin want to audit your network, so they will log into this firewall, they will take all the logs. Okay, this firewall will store the logs up to 30 or 40 days. Okay, so after that it will flush the logs. Okay, before that only you need the network administrator want to monitor the or audit the logs. Okay, so this tab interface very much is useful when they want to monitor the traffic without changing anything. Okay, without modifying anything in the network. Okay, and the next thing is an layer 2 interface, where if you want to configure the firewall interface as a layer 2, or if you want to configure if you want to act that firewall interface as a switch. Okay, you need to configure an interface as a layer 2. Okay, all these interfaces, whatever the interfaces that you want, you have an option to configure whatever the mode that you want, whatever the interface that you want. Okay, and if you want to act that particular interface as switch, you have to go with a layer 2 interface. Okay, you need to configure that interface as an L2, so it will be acting as an layer 2 of the OSA model and functioning like a switch. Okay, and if you want to act that particular interface as an router, okay, you need to configure interface type as an L3. So then this L3, the interface that you have configured will be acting as a router and use it for the routing purpose. Okay, mostly we are using all the interface type because all our network traffic will be based upon the IPs only, right? So mostly in the firewalls will be going with an layer 3 interfaces only, because in our network mostly we are seeing an IP addresses only, we are seeing mostly the routers. So in order to connect router to the firewall, the router will be supports L3 network layer, and the same network that the interface that we are connecting from router to the firewall, that should be also an L3, right? So in that case, the we need to configure that particular interface an L3, so that will be acting as also a router. So it will be helpful for the whenever you want an routing some traffic. Okay, and virtual wire interface will be having an same concept like as an tap interface. Okay, here the same topology, you have an router. Okay, let's take this, you have a router here, and you have switches, and your router is connected to an internet. Till this router, this is your network, the switches are connected to the routers and our routers are connected to the internet. Okay, so now you the network administrator told you to monitor your network traffic, and also you have to manipulate the traffic, or you have to inspect the traffic and you have to manipulate the traffic. So in that case, what you can do in the tab interface, how we have deployed the firewall in order just to monitor. This firewall is not doing anything, it will just monitoring, but we have the requirement now. So we have to monitor, and at the same time we have to manipulate the traffic. Manipulate in sense, if you see any unauthorized access from in your network, we have to block that. Or if you want to if you see some of the legitimate traffic is blocked, so we have to allow that. So what we can do is, we need to install an firewall between your router segments. So whenever you deployed the virtual wire interface, you no need to do any configuration changes. Okay, you can just attach the firewall in between the your routers and connect whatever the interfaces that are connecting between whatever the interfaces that are before connecting between the routers, the same interface you can just connect it to the firewall. This firewall interface will be in the virtual wire mode. Okay, will be in the virtual wire, VW wire, we can call it as an VW mode, which is an virtual wire mode. So how it will work means, we are not changing any configurations. Okay, whatever the IP address that we have here and whatever the IP address we have here, we no need to change anything. We are just implementing the firewall between your network segment. So if you configure this interface as an virtual wire mode, no need of changing any configurations. And what the firewall will do means, whatever the traffic flowing inside to outside and outside to inside, it will be logging on the firewall. Okay, for some reason, the network administrator audited the logs and they saw that some unauthorized access in your network. Okay, so the network administrator want to block that unauthorized access. So what they will do is, they will create a security rule inside this firewall, and they will be set the action as a block, so that the unauthorized access will be blocked. Okay, so what is the basic difference between tap interface and virtual wire mode means, in the tap interface we are just monitoring the traffic, we are not manipulating any traffic, or we are not doing anything in your network, we are just monitoring the traffic, and we are knowing whether there are any unauthorized access or not. But in the virtual wire mode, what we are doing is, instead of monitoring and besides monitoring traffic, we are also manipulating your network. We if you see any unauthorized access, we are creating a security policy and we are blocking those traffic. Okay, so that is the basic difference between tap interface and virtual wire mode. Okay, and next thing is an next interface type is an aggregate interface. This aggregate interface we can also call as an in if you want to know in the Cisco terminology or in your routing terminology, we can call it as an ether channel or port channel. Okay, we can what is the main use of this ether channel or port channel or aggregate interface means, we are combining multiple interfaces. Okay, multiple interface means you have an interface with an 1 GB, but you have to flow the traffic with an 3 GB. For suppose, see here, you have a firewall and you have an interface, you have three interfaces, each interface will support up to 1 GB. Okay, so I don't want to carry each interface of 1 GB. I want to carry all the I want to carry the firewall or 3 GB at a time. Okay, what we can do at that time, what we can do means, we can combine these three interfaces into an one logical interface, which is an aggregate interface. Okay, which is an aggregate interface. So in that case, what you can do, in order to increase the bandwidth, okay, in order to increase the bandwidth, we can logically bind these three interfaces to increase the bandwidth, and also at the same time it will also provide the redundancy. Okay, so what is the main purpose of aggregate interface means, in order to increase the bandwidth and also provide the redundancy in your network, we are combining that or we are bundling multiple physical interfaces into a one single logical interface, which is an aggregate interface. Okay, and VLAN interface, if you want to in Palo Alto firewall, if you want to configure if you want to carry an VLAN traffic. Okay, so we have to configure and sub interfaces, and those sub interfaces, one sub interface will be participate in one VLAN, so that that sub interface will be responsible to carry that particular VLAN traffic. Okay, so if you want to carry a VLAN interface, VLAN traffic, we need to create a sub interface. This sub interface will be a part of this VLAN, and that will be calling as an VLAN interface. So in that way, you can carry an VLAN traffic using an sub interfaces. And tunnel interfaces, we have discussed about VPNs, right? IPsec or remote access VPN. In that case, we are using a tunnel interface. If you form a tunnel interface in the firewalls, this tunnel interface will be helpful to carry your data in a secure manner. This tunnel interface will be configured when you are configuring IPsec VPN or global protect VPN. Okay, we'll know more about the tunnel interface when we are discussing about IPsec or whenever we are discussing about global protect VPNs. Okay, in order, what is the main purpose means, in order to forward the traffic in a secure manner. Okay, in a secure channel or secure manner, we can use this tunnel interface. Okay, these are the interface types. Do you have any questions or do you have any clarifications? Is the device save tap logs? Tap log in sense, what do you mean the tap logs? Hey Satish, could you clarify more about aggregate interface where it will connect? So your first question is the device save tap logs? Tap log means what? What do you mean by tap logs? Yes, this is a tap interface. I told you this firewall as a tap interface, right? So in this tap, whenever you configured the tap interface on the firewall, this will be helpful to save the logs in the firewall as okay. Whatever the traffic receiving on the switch will forward all those traffic to the firewall. The firewall will save the logs. And your second question is aggregate interface where it will connect. Aggregate interface means see here you have a firewall and other side you have a firewall or you have a router. If you have a firewall or if you have a router, whatever it may be, okay, so one side, for suppose it will be connected like this, and if you want to send a traffic with a high bandwidth, okay, but we have each interface will be having 1 GB 1 GB 1 GB of bandwidth, but I want to send what at a time I want to send in 3 GB. So what in that case what we'll do is we can configure an aggregate interface here, and also you can also configure aggregate interface on both sides. You need to configure aggregate interface on both sides so that this aggregate interface will logically form here, and also it will form the logical interface here, and it will carry an 3 GB of data at a time. Is that answers your question? Redundancy means see here if one yeah, it's connected with the same device only. For devices you don't have redundancy. I am saying about the link redundancy only. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or any other queries? Okay. If you don't have any questions, we can proceed further. We have a zones, right? I think I have already discussed about the zones. Here in the Palo Alto Firewall, we'll be creating a zones in order to. Is this? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. High availability is for the redundancy between the firewalls. Okay. Do you know about? I think. Do you know about VRRP, right? In the routing, you know about VRRP, how VRRP configured. One router will be acting as an active, one router will be acting as a passive. So whenever this active router goes down, this passive router will be take the role of active, and all the traffic will be flowing through this current active, right? So in the same way, the firewall will be having high availability, we'll be calling as an high availability. One firewall, we need two firewalls. One firewall will be acting as an active and one firewall will be acting as a passive. So all the traffic flowing from the active firewall. If that firewall went down, or if you have facing some issues with the firewall, and this firewall is not capable of passing the traffic or forwarding the traffic, the passive firewall will take over the active role, and the traffic move to this active firewall. Okay, so this redundancy is basically for in order to avoid the outages or avoid the single point of failures. Okay, in 5 seconds outage or 10 seconds outage in an company is a huge loss. They will lose billions of dollars. Okay, so in order to avoid that outage, we are coming with an redundancy where one firewall will be acting as an active, one firewall will be acting as a passive. Okay, got it? Or do you have any question or queries on this? Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. One for see here, you can learn more about this in the high availability case. But if you want to know about this, we have two HA links. One is an HA1 and other one is an HA2. One will be sending an key allow. HA1 will be responsible for sending an key allows as well as HA information. So there is an election process in the HA that we discuss more that deeply in that HA class, but I will just let you know what are the links. Okay, we have two links, HA1 and HA2. HA1 will be helpful to shade the to negotiate the key pillars as well as HA information, and the HA2 link will be helpful to synchronize the sessions. Okay, whatever the traffic coming, whatever the traffic received on the active firewalls, the firewall will create a session. Okay, how the session will be created, I will let you know in the tomorrow class. We have a separate class for that. Whenever the traffic receives on the firewall, it will create a sessions. Okay, we are seeing the traffic on the active firewall only, but we don't have a traffic on the passive firewall, right? So whenever these passive firewalls take the active role, it has to the sessions will also be present in the passive passive, right? So in order to have the sessions in the passive also, we'll be having HA2 link where the session synchronization will be happen. Okay, whenever the active goes down and passive take over the role, so we have already sessions are synchronized in the firewall. So the traffic will switch to the passive, and the sessions are already available, right? The traffic will be taking over from there. If you don't have the sessions, maybe there will be some delay or some disruptions. Okay, so in order to avoid that, these HA2 links will be helpful to in order to synchronize the sessions between this active and passive. Okay, you will get to know more about, if you are not understanding or if you are not clear about it, you will get to know more about that in the high availability class. We have a separate class for that. Okay, yeah, yeah, no issues. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry, could you come again? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. And next thing is the next concept is zones. Okay, I think we have discussed about this zones in the segmentation. I will let you know once again. Okay, so these zones is very much helpful in order to avoid the unauthorized access. Okay, unauthorized access means you have an internal network. Okay, you have an internal network where you will be having some private information or sensitive information, and you will be also having the interfaces that are connecting outside of your network. Okay, so if you don't have a zones, they will be able to easily communicate with your network, right? For suppose in switching terminology, I will tell you, if you have a switch, the switch is a one broadcast domain, right? So whatever the interfaces, if you don't have a VLANs, whatever the interfaces that are available, they are able to communicate. All the interfaces will be able to communicate, right? So now I want to provide security and I want to restrict the access for some of the interfaces. In that case, what I can do, I will group these interfaces in one VLAN and I will group this interface in one VLAN so that the access will be restricted. So in the same way, I am also restricting the access in the firewall by using a zones. Here we can configure VLANs and here we can configure an zones. So once you create a zones, there will be no access for unauthorized users, or there will be no unauthorized access between the zones. You can able to access within the zone. You can able to access whatever you want within the zone, but if you want to access the resources out of your zone, they won't be access. In order to get access to these devices between the zones, we need to create an security policy here. Okay, security policy we have to create here. What you can do, you can create one router, you can switch you can configure one router and connect this switch to the router, and in order to communicate between the different VLANs, the traffic has to be flow from the router, right? So in the same way here, what we can do is we can configure a security policy in order to allow the zones from one in order to allow traffic from one zone to another zone. Here in the Palo Alto firewall, what we'll be having is we'll be having three types of zones. One is an inside or trust zone. Okay, inside or trust zone, in sense whatever the traffic that you know inside of your network and whatever the traffic that you are trusting, okay, will be calling as inside a trust zone, and whatever the traffic that is outside of your network or whatever the traffic that you don't trust, that will be calling as an outside or untrust zones. We'll be having DMZ zone as well. Okay, we'll be having DMZ zone. In this DMZ zone, what you can do means you have an servers. Okay, you will be having servers that are available in your network, but these are all publicly faced. Okay, you will be having if you want to access these servers, okay, if you want to access these servers, you have to access via public IP, but these are all available in your local network only. So in order to provide security to your internal network, we are creating a DMZ zone and placing these servers, because these servers are publicly faced but available inside your zone. So in order to protect our inside zone, we are creating a DMZ zone which is called demilitarized zone, and we are placing these servers in the DMZ zone so that it will be restricted to access the whatever the inside traffic, it will be restricting. Okay, it will be protecting our internal traffic. Okay, so these are the three different types of zones, which are inside, outside, DMZ zone, and outside or untrust zones. We can classify in a three ways. Okay, so these are the zones, and we'll having a last topic as an interface management profile. What is the use of interface management profile means? In the interface type, what is the first type that we have discussed? The first type is an management interface, right? What is the purpose of management interface? What is the purpose of management interface? We can access firewall via GUI or SSH. SSH means this is an CLI. Okay, command line interface. Yeah, that's correct. In order to access the firewalls through the remote, okay, through remote, whether it one you can access remotely with the GUI, or if you want to access via SSH. Okay, so this management interface will be used, but if this management interface goes down, okay, if this management interface goes down, remotely you cannot access the firewall, right? So in order to access the firewall, so you need to travel to your data center and connect the console port, then only you can able to access the firewall if management interface goes down. So in order to provide redundancy for this management interface, there is a concept called interface management profile, where you can enable this you can configure management interface profile and enable this on the we have an data plane interfaces. Okay, in each firewall we'll be having two planes, right? One is a management plane, we'll be having management plane, and also we'll be having data plane. Both firewall, in each firewall will be having management plane, data plane. Management plane is responsible for the management traffic, and data plane is responsible for the inbound traffic or data plane traffic. Our real traffic will be in the data plane, and management traffic will be in the management plane, right? So in order to provide the redundancy for the management interface, we need to configure interface management profile, and you can enable that. You can call that interface management profile on the one of the data plane interface, so that this data plane interface, for suppose I have an Ethernet 1/1, Ethernet 1/1, which is my in-band interface or data plane interface. So I'm configuring this Ethernet 1/1 for the for to access the management access. Okay, so I can configure this management interface profile, and in the management interface profile we'll be having multiple services like HTTPS, we'll be having HTTP, we'll be having SSH, we'll be having like SNMP. All these services will be available. If you want to enable any of the service, you can just configure this and enable. If you want to access GUI means web, right? And if you want to access GUI, you have to enable the HTTPS. If you want to access the CLI, you need to enable the SSH. And as well as we'll be having one more service called ping. This ping should be enabled on always on the firewalls. Okay, you need to configure an interface management profile and enable the ping, and you have to call that on the one of the Ethernet. Okay, so that then only the interface will be able to allow the ping traffic. So here we are talking about redundancy for management interface, right? If management interface goes down, what you can do, you can configure interface management profile and enable whatever the service that one. I want to access GUI, right? And also I want to access CLI. I will enable these two services, and I will add this interface management profile here on this interface. Okay, so here then after adding this, we can able to access manage GUI and SSH of the firewall using this IP address of this Ethernet 1/1 whenever there is a management interface down. Okay, that is the main purpose of interface management profile. In order to provide redundancy for management interface using a data plane interface, we have to configure an interface management profile. Understood, or do you need any clarification on this? Any questions or any clarifications? Yeah, okay. That's okay. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, with this our session will, the first class will be end. Okay, and I will be uploading this session within 10 to 15 minutes after this class. So you can, if you have any doubts, you can just go through this video, and still if you have doubts, you can just reach out to me in the Slack so that I will able to help you. Yes, Vinay Kumar, or yes, Vinay, you have raised a hand. Yes. After two classes, I will be I will demonstrate you how to install the lab. Okay, so we can doing the lab whatever we are discussing here. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, this is mostly 20 days course. Yeah. Yeah, you, if you want, you can do a certifications as well. We have an PCNSE certification for this. You can able to do that. Okay. Yeah. The cost will be like around $250. It will cost about $250, but with that we don't get any concession for that. Okay, you have to pay fully $250 in order to get the certificate, or in order to write the certification examination. Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining this class. We can continue the class same time tomorrow. Okay. We'll be going to discuss in the next class. Next class is a more important one, which is an packet flow. How the packet will be, how the traffic will be flown inside the firewall. Okay. How the packet will be inspected by the firewall once the traffic is received. Okay. We have different stages in the packet flow, so you can able to understand how the firewall will inspect the traffic inside the once the traffic receives the firewall. Okay. And if you you can get do you have access to the website, right? This Palo Alto. If you don't have, you can just consult my team. Okay, they will give a password for this Palo Alto as well, so you can able to download these PPTs, as well as we have recording videos as well. You can also download from there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys, we can wind up this session here. Thanks for joining.